Are you serious? Are you serious? Guys, let me just say that I don't follow the prophecies of Nostradamus, but a lot of people write me and ask me, what do you think of Nostradamus's prophecies or predictions? Well, he's got some stuff right. There's no doubt about that. He did predict that Napoleon would be a world leader. He got that one right. And that there would be the rise of Adolf Hitler and would be an Antichrist who would try to destroy or cleanse the earth of God's chosen people. He got that right. But besides those two, what you would call Antichrists, there's been many Antichrists in the world. Yes, Nostradamus did put together some quatrains, predictions of the final Antichrist, what he calls the third Antichrist. All right, let's share some of this with you since you are faithful partners here on Patreon. Again, I don't follow Nostradamus or his prophecies. I follow biblical prophecy. But for the sake of all of you who have asked, let's share with you some of Nostradamus's predictions. Nostradamus warns us in his predictions that in 2010, he predicted that the third Antichrist will even be more destructive than his two predecessors, Napoleon and Hitler, and that his actions will darken and distort the history of the 21st century. In the year 2032, Nostradamus says that the third Antichrist will soon be born, and his birth will be a disaster for the world. Then in the year 2034, a total eclipse on the 20th of March will precede the third Antichrist's birth. He will be conceived in the period immediately following the eclipse and be born in New York City. The Antichrist, he says, will be born in New York City, and he'll be conceived, doesn't say where, but he'll be conceived right after the total eclipse of the sun on March the 20th, 2034. In the year 2035, Nostradamus says that the third Antichrist will be born of poor parents. Nostradamus predicts that his birth will lead to a global warfare and ecological damage on an unprecedented scale. In the year 2036, Nostradamus says certain parties will declare that the third Antichrist to be the second coming. This suggestion will damage both the Christian world and the world community. In the year 2062, Nostradamus says there will be a worldwide epidemic, allowing the Antichrist to consolidate his power with the disenchanted, and Nostradamus coins the name Mabus. Now, in the year 2069, there are rumbles, Nostradamus says, of a future global war, despite the efforts of a new leader of the free world. And then he says an asteroid will strike the earth, causing immense damage. Is this a foretaste of things to come? That was a prediction by Nostradamus. He says this will happen in the year 2069. In the year 2070, a global war will begin, triggered by hatred. It says that the third Antichrist will now be 35 years old and has achieved his principal objectives when thermonuclear devices are used on the battlefield. In the year 2071, Nostradamus says England has somehow contrived to hold itself aloof from the conflict. It becomes the potential breadbasket of a ruined Europe, but only has enough bread to feed its own people. And in the year 2075, it's the end of the great human era. Nostradamus says all is changing. The world is entering a period of barbarism and uncertainty. He also says that year, 2075, that the Antichrist has survived the global war that started in 2070, and now at the age of 40, he's attempting to widen his sphere of influence from the Middle East into Asia. In the year 2077, the third Antichrist, according to Nostradamus, is not having everything his own way. For the first time, it seems he may be fallible, and people rise up against him. Blood covers the earth. Britain attempts to seal its borders. Interesting. Fifth columnists attempt to undermine its attempts to remain outside the fray, but they failed. In the year 2078, Nostradamus says totalitarianism, government will abound. Any attempt at democratic change is ruthlessly put down. So dictators will rule the world in the year 2078. And according to Nostradamus, in the year 2079, there's a fundamental change in the world order. Democratic forces attempt last-ditch resistance and are, to everyone's surprise, successful. And in the year 2080, Nostradamus says there's a vast ongoing ecological change. Thanks to the thermonuclear war of 10 years before, people turned back to God in their horror at what has been allowed to occur. And the toe of Italy is devastated by a tsunami triggered by an underwater volcano. And a further tsunami will devastate the Aegean area, including parts of Turkey. In the year 2081, Nostradamus says a new leader will appear and attempt to turn back the clock, and people will flock to him. But in the year 2082, the ecological destruction triggered by the 2070 thermonuclear war continues, this time with a catastrophic earthquake. Its epicenter will be somewhere near the border between the Czech Republic and Austria. What? And then it says, also that same year in 2082, there are locust plagues in Europe. The locusts are carried over from Africa by freak winds. And then in the year 2083, according to Nostradamus, a terrible earthquake will hit New York City. Its effect will be far greater than 9/11 tragedy, to which this quatrain bears a very strong resemblance. And in 2084, Nostradamus predicts and sums up the effect of the third Antichrist has had on the earth. And in 2085, Nostradamus says the third Antichrist is captured. Either way, the French leader who holds him captive is weak and havering, and he's given back into the hands of his allies. And in the year 2091, it is 20 years after the end of the global war of 2070, people and nations are slowly coming together in their desire to start afresh. Further conflict, though, is feared, however. In the year 2095, Nostradamus says there's an ecological burnout. Great swaths of the world are uninhabitable. There's still no effective leadership in the world. And in the year 2097, Nostradamus says that the third Antichrist influence has waned. New laws rule new lands. And Nostradamus likens the decay of the third Antichrist empire to that of the Holy Roman Empire, the Holy Roman Emperor Charles V, who was destined to sit inside the Wunderburg with all his knights and vassals around him until his gray beard was long enough to encircle the table 3 times, following which the Antichrist would reappear. So, bottom line is Nostradamus believes the Antichrist will be born in the year 2035 and will really fully come into power basically around 2062. He'll start building a power base even when he's 18 years old in 2053. But he will really start coming into power around 2062, okay? That's according to the quatrains of Nostradamus. Again, yes, Nostradamus was pretty accurate with Napoleon and pretty accurate with Hitler. Will he be accurate with the third and final Antichrist, the biblical beast of the Bible? It would seem that this Antichrist beast, which if would be already born and already getting close to being in position, but only time will tell. The Bible plainly says, though, when you see all these things happening, you know that the time is near? Well, it really comes down in the next 15 months or so. It really does. Will there be a peace deal signed, a covenant with many? If it happens this fall or next fall. And if you start seeing the temple, the third temple going up, you better get ready. Time is almost over. The third Antichrist, or what I'll call the Antichrist, the beast, will be about to rise. I think we're very, very close. But God truly knows. Thank you for being a member of my Patreon channel. And even though I don't believe the prophecies or predictions of Nostradamus, I do find him quite fascinating that he does hit some of these so remarkably correct. But, there are clairvoyants, and there are those that can get knowledge from the dark side, and there are those who can get spiritual revelations and visions from the Holy Spirit. Are you saved? Give your life to Jesus Christ. We're in the last days.